My name's Sam Snodgrass. I am class of 2018. I'm a gender studies major, and this is one of the cases that I curated for our exhibit on the history of physical education at Mount Holyoke. This case in particular is about the gymnasiums that have been used at the college, which is pretty much like three spaces. So the first was the gymnasium room in the original seminary building. And then after that burned down, Blanchard was built in 1900, and after a while Blanchard was kind of outdated and didn't have everything that the student wanted, so they built Kendall, which is our current building. And in 1896, basically the seminary was at that point pretty much just one building, like the dining rooms and the dorms and the classrooms were all in the same structure. So then when it burned down, they really had to start from scratch. So actually one of the dorms, Rockefeller, burned down in December of 1922. It was right before Christmas break. The school wasn't able to rebuild another dorm in time. So what they did was they built those cubicles in the gymnasium. They didn't have ceilings, so that was interesting because it meant that everyone had to turn their lights out at the same time because it was just the like overhead chandeliers. One of the students wrote about how during finals, one of her like most relevant memories was the June bugs falling down onto her paper from the ceiling. Yeah, so this is basically about the history of team sports at Mount Holyoke. When sports started getting introduced to the college, there wasn't really intercollegiate competition happening, especially for women's colleges. So what happened in the beginning was that classes would compete against each other in teams, or sometimes dorms would form teams and compete against each other. And that started to like change as the years went on. There was an athletic association that would host field days, where sometimes they would invite like a couple of students from other colleges. And then Mount Holyoke started branching out and like going to other colleges to like play games. Sometimes they were unofficial. So one of the things actually in here is a picture of Mount Holyoke playing against Amherst College in field hockey, which is something that wouldn't really happen today, especially because it was still a men's college at the time. At the time when it like really increased the amount of intercollegiate competition was when Title IX was passed in 1972, because it meant that colleges had to spend as much on women's sports as they did on men's sports, which didn't affect Mount Holyoke in the most direct way because all of Mount Holyoke's money was already going to women's sports, but it meant that schools in the area had to also have comparable teams, and so Mount Holyoke didn't have to travel as far to compete.